We back once again. I was gonna record this video and just send it directly to my pops, but I feel like it's been a couple of people that's been asking me tips and tricks as to how to start playing the Native American style flutes. I'm gonna keep saying this over and over and over again. I want y'all to know that I'm not a professional. I've only been playing since the 7th of June 2024. I don't feel comfortable ascribing that label as a professional Native American style flute player or Native American flute player, so you'll never hear me say that out of my mouth. But I definitely do know how to play, as we can all hear clear as day. When it comes to just getting started with this style of flute in particular, I can only tell y'all what I did. I can only explain the path that I walked. So when it came to me getting into it, the first flute that I started on is the first flute that I bought for you being my father, not you being the viewer. But that first flute that I bought for you, which was the key of A, that will be the flute that I recommend any beginner start with. Not only does it sound absolutely divine, you're not dealing with too big of a finger spread, so it's easier for you to play the flute. When you get into these bigger, bassier flutes, this is when we're getting into these larger finger spreads, which isn't as beginner friendly because we're just getting started. And ultimately, when you just get started on those bigger flutes, when your muscles and your fingers not used to doing these grand stretches, it hurts. And it's something that you'll have to build up and develop down the line. You know what I'm saying? But as of right now, we're just starting off on either a high A or any sort of high flute. I personally would recommend that key of A. This right here is the key of E by Brian Nolan. But this is another good flute, another beginner-friendly flute that I would recommend, you know. But when it comes to the different types of Native American style flutes, I believe it's around 3 or 4. You mainly gonna be only dealing with either your highs, like this one, which is the high E. You can get into some mids, which would be like an F or an F sharp. You can get into your lows, which would be like this D. This is a low D. You got your basses, which would be like this, which is a bass B. And then you got your contrabasses, which is like a super bass, which is just a huge flute like this one, which is in the key of F sharp. Typically speaking, as you go down the line and acquiring larger flutes, that's something that's definitely going to shoot the price up. That this contrabass flute that I got from SouthernCrossFlutes, this was $1,050, you know, but this is a big flute. And usually when you looking at contrabasses or basses, on the low end, you might be able to get a good bass for $500. On the high end, you definitely gonna pay $800 to $1,000 for the flute, you know. So that's another reason why I wouldn't recommend starting off on a $1,000 flute. Unless you got it like that, then that's something that you can do. But you can get started off on a high or get you a key of A and only pay $100, $120 at most, you know. So we still keeping it somewhat affordable, and we're still having something that sounds good, right? So we got those different types of flutes. We also have different scales when it comes to the flutes. Traditionally, when it comes to the Native American flutes or the Native American style of flutes, the main scale that we're going to be working with is the minor pentatonic, which is only dealing with these 5 holes right here, right? Some flutes you will find there'll be 5-hole flutes. We really mainly deal with the 6-hole flutes, and by we I mean me personally speaking. I'm talking about I here. I really only deal with the 6-hole flutes, and it's not because I don't like 5-hole flutes. They're literally the same thing. The same notes can be produced. It's just that the people that I go to for my flutes, 9 times out of 10, they're producing 6 holes, so that's what I'm gonna go with. But usually we're dealing with a 6-hole Native American flute that's tuned to the minor pentatonic scale. But that is not the only scale that can be produced on a 6-hole Native American flute, and that's not the only scale that's available out there for people to pick up, right? So right here, I got this F sharp made by Shawn, and this is in the minor pentatonic scale. So as we play up and down the scale, this is what it sounds like. You'll be able to hear the difference in the scale. And these 3 flutes that I'm going to play, these are all F sharps. They're just tuned differently. So this is what the minor pentatonic sounds like playing up and playing down the scale. Pretty standard, nothing too exotic or out there as far as that goes. This is another F sharp by Shawn over at Sweep and Feather Flutes. You can kind of tell just a tad bit. The holes will usually be a giveaway as to what scale you're working with. But these holes, even though they're in a similar place, there are a tad bit different as far as the size goes. And I'm assuming that that size is what gives it a different sound when it comes to playing up and down the scale. This one being in the Aeolian scale, we do not have to keep this finger down and create that minor pentatonic scale. I'm going to get a little deeper into that after I play that last flute. But this is the Aeolian, and this is what it sounds like going up and down the scale. So just a tad bit different when it comes to the actual sound that's being produced. And then we also have another type of flute, which is this right here, which is the ocarina. These are extremely beginner friendly. And that is because the hole placement. No matter if you're dealing with a big contrabass ocarina, which will be like this big, or you getting into something smaller, the hole placements would definitely be more beginner oriented since you're not dealing with too big of a spread. But this is another F sharp. These 3 that I just played, these are all F sharp flutes with different scales or different tunings. And this is what this one sounds like playing up and down the scale. This one is tuned to the Hijaz scale. Each scale pretty much invokes a different feeling. So if you're conscious of the feeling that you're trying to put out there, whether you playing for yourself or you playing for others, when it comes to picking up different scale flutes, that will be something that you can do. But know that you do not need to purchase a flute in the Aeolian scale to make the Aeolian sound on a flute, or purchase a flute in the Hijaz scale to make a Hijaz sound on the Native American style of flutes, or that minor pentatonic tuning, right? You don't have to go out there and buy them different flutes. You can just get something basic, simple, and learn how to play that scale on this flute in particular. But let's get to the how to play, right? Being that we got 6 holes, you may think that to play up and down the scale, you would just do it like that. You just going up and down. But you got to remember, the scale that we're playing is the minor pent, which is 5. So we're working with 5 holes. Keep in mind, the finger that we have to keep down to play that minor pentatonic scale would be this finger right here, the 3rd one from the top. And whether you're right-handed with your right hand on the bottom, or if you're left-handed with your right hand on the top, it will always be that 3rd hole that's down. Granted, it's not a necessity. You don't necessarily have to keep this finger down while you're playing. But as you play and you hear how we just play straight up, you'll hear it sounds a tad bit different. So this is what it is supposed to sound like while keeping this finger down and playing that minor pentatonic scale. Oop. My apologies. But yes, this is what it's supposed to sound like. And they did it again. That's something else y'all got to be mindful of too when it comes to picking up y'all flutes, is the actual, this is known as the totem. Some people call it the totem, some people call it the fetish, some people call it the block. Many different names, but every flute has one. Anytime you pick up a new flute or you get a new flute delivered, you got to make sure that your block is fixed in the right position. As we just heard and saw, when the block is covering these holes, which is known as the true sound holes, When these holes are covered, no sound will be produced. If the block is too far up, no sound will be produced, and if it's too far down, no sound will be produced. So you have to make sure that it's covered just right, as we see right here. But as we're playing up the scale, you have to be sure to keep this finger down, and that will make this sound. And this is what it sounds like to play and lift this finger up. So it's not that you're supposed to keep this finger down. When we first start off, we're going to keep this finger down just so that we can work with the minor pentatonic scale in particular. But the more you get more comfortable with playing with this scale, then we can branch out into playing with different notes, you know? So with that minor pentatonic, it's only 5 notes that we're going to be working with, but there are more than 5 notes that can be produced on a flute tuned to the minor pentatonic scale. But that's more down the line, you know what I'm saying? Something else that you really have to be mindful of, this is something that I personally noticed when it came to me watching the people in my space that I've put, given flutes and watched them play. Something that I noticed with beginners is we lack the understanding of phrasing. If you somebody that comes from like a rapping background, where I'm from, everybody rap. That's normal. If you somebody that come from that type of background, then you familiar with bars, laying bars on the track or laying bars on a beat. Phrasing is the same exact thing. It's bars. And that phrasing or them bars is acquired by putting spaces or silence between your playing. What I've noticed with beginners that I've personally watched is when it comes to their playing, and I'm going to just use the bottom 3 notes. When it comes to their playing, there's no phrasing. They're just taking a breath and they're just playing notes throughout the entirety of that breath. That doesn't necessarily sound bad per se, but it can sound a hell of a lot better if we implement phrasing or flute bars. I'm about to just play and I'm going to show y'all. This will be the equivalent of no phrasing. So it's not that didn't sound good, because it sounded nice, you know what I'm saying? But when we implement them pauses and them breaks, that silence is what gives the listener the opportunity to begin to invoke within the mind's eye. It's that silence, you know what I'm saying? It's that break, it's that pause. I'm still gonna play the same 3 notes. These are literally the same notes that I just played. But when you implement these pauses or these phrases, or you're conscious that you're making bars with the flute, we can produce a magical sound. So I'm just playing with the bottom 3 notes, and I'm just going to implement a little phrasing. Same exact notes, but phrasing has been implemented, which is able to produce a different mind image, a different mental image. You feel me? But something else that will be developed down the line, like I mentioned, as we're just getting started, the main focus should be getting used to playing the minor pentatonic scale. And when I'm talking about just playing up and down, no need to play and skip notes or jump from one note to the next. Just play up and down until you get comfortable doing that. And I'll say maybe about a week or so of just playing up and down the scales, then we can branch out and go from one or all holes closed to the second one open, and jump from this one to this one, and jump from this one back to this one. You know, let's save that for down the line. But as we first just getting started, we're just playing up and down. Very simple, very, very easy. You know what I'm saying? At least for the time being. And then as we get down the line and we develop our playing and we start to develop our own sound, this is where the use of what's called embellishments will come into play. And sometimes when you're listening, whether it's y'all listening to me play or you listening to the Johnny Lipfords or the Tommy Gravens or the Shawn the writers out there, when you listening to these people that play and that know how to play, you'll listen and you'll hear different chips and yelps and just like bird sounds. You'll hear different embellishments. That's what they're called. So down the line, you know, as we play the flutes, we will learn these different embellishments, and that will just add to making your own sound, you know. But again, that's something that's more so down the line. You know, once we start off playing, we just focus on the minor pentatonic scale, just playing up and down. And once we put some time in, then we can focus on adding embellishments. And the main embellishment that I personally use, that I'm very happy to have learned, is the chirp. And that pretty much just consists of lifting your finger up and putting it down very fast as you're playing through the notes. Whether it's just this one, this one, this one, these two, all these three, just doing that. And you'll be able to tell the difference. So instead of just playing up like this, when we add this little yip or those, this is what it sounds like. Very, very, very small yip that adds a little flavor to the playing. You know what I'm saying? But as far as where to acquire flutes, some people, you can watch their YouTubes, you can follow them on Instagram, and you could mess with the personality. So that can be something that attributes to you picking a flute up. Or you could like the way that it sounds. There is no 100% certain way to pick up a flute at all. Most of the people that I've purchased from, these are people that I've watched on YouTube or I was recommended by somebody that plays flutes. I've only picked up from maybe 5 or 6 people. Depending on the person that you are acquiring a flute from, will pretty much depends on what the price will be like. If you're dealing with somebody who has been making flutes for 10 years, 15 years, 20 plus, they've acquired the right to price. They put that time in and they studied. And rightfully so, if they want to charge $500 for a flute that they studied 20 years to learn how to make, so be it. When you get into more newer people that's just starting off in their creations, you might be able to find something that's a little bit more affordable. But for the most part, a lot of the people that I've personally purchased flutes from, they are more on the higher end. These are people that I'm picking up from that have put time into developing their practice. So rightfully so, they free to charge. And I'm going to pay that fee, especially if it's a flute that I love and it's coming from somebody that I love too, you know. But for the most part, just to name the people that I've picked up flutes from, of course, Shawn the writer over at Sweep and Feather Flutes. I got a couple of his flutes. His flutes are amazing, absolutely amazing quality. And he has a more personal approach when it comes to buying flutes from him. You know, we communicated with each other back and forth. He even thanked me about making some videos on his flutes too. You know, so Shawn the writer over at Sweep and Feather Flutes, this is somebody that I will forever stand by. Of course, we have Brian Nolan. He's somebody that I believe Brian trained or studied under I'm not entirely certain of the man name. He owns Quetzalcoatl Music or Quetzalcoatl Flutes. I believe he made Andre 3000 flute too. But Brian trained with him or apprenticed under him. So a lot of his flutes are similar in appearance to Quetzalcoatl flutes. But this is another person that makes amazing quality flutes. Amazing. Another person that I picked up from, of course, is Rainbow Walker. This was the first flute that I bought. Rainbow Walker makes some phenomenal flutes as well, and the price is okay also. The only thing that I would say about the Rainbow Walkers in particular is they usually have larger bores, so the sound is a little bit more of an ah compared to a ooh. You might not get that, but if you play, you're gonna know exactly what I mean. This sound compared to another low D that I've played before, just because of the bore size, it's just more of a ah instead of a smaller bore making a ooh. You know what I'm saying? But Rainbow Walker I picked up from PYNFLUTES. These are the 3D printed flutes that are extremely affordable. If you're somebody that's just getting started into the flute game, I definitely recommend picking you up a 3D printed flute. Mainly if you just a beginner, like you start from square one, get you a 3D printed flute so that you can actually see if this is something that you want to invest your time and your money in. The 3D printed flutes, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're super affordable. I guess the only downside would be if you're somebody in the States, this has to come from overseas, so that wait time could be not so favorable. But again, this is not too long of a wait. But PYN, I got a couple of their 3D printed flutes. Of course, we got SouthernCrossFlutes, which is this super huge F-sharp contrabass. This will be another one, like I said, definitely not beginner friendly on the play and on the price. Definitely not beginner friendly, but it's a lovely flute nonetheless. And that again came from SouthernCrossFlutes. And of course, we got the flute that everybody loves, which is the bass B. This, of course, came from Jeremy over at Mellow Mountain Flutes. Jeremy Webb, Mellow Mountain Flutes. I've picked up flutes from Kyle, aka the Flute-Wizard. I got a hijab from him. I've picked up a Aeolian bass B with an F-sharp harmony drone from Johnny Lipford's website. That's horizonflutestores.com. So it's plenty of makers out there. It's plenty of producers of flutes out there. It pretty much will boil down to you looking at your maker, looking at their background, and looking at their work to narrow down if that's somebody that you want to spend your money with, and if that's somebody that you want to develop a relationship with. Because the second you buy your first flute and you put that time in and you start playing and you start to hear how good you sound, you're not going to want just one. I can assure you that. I started off with just thinking I would be okay with the low D. And then I found out about the C, I found out about the B, I found out about the F sharp, and slowly but surely the collection grew more and more and more. But this was not intended to be a long video. I do apologize. It's definitely 23 minutes like it's saying at my top left corner. So if you stayed throughout the entire duration of the video, I appreciate you for listening. Also, I really cannot stress this enough. I'm so grateful that my dad joined the wave. So grateful. So if y'all come to the end of this video and y'all watch the whole video, make sure y'all give my dad some thumbs ups and some claps and congratulations, because we just got him his first flute, and I'm like 99% certain that he's gonna stick with it. And being that he's gonna stick with it, I know it's gonna be one point in time where when we link up, he gonna be sounding amazing, I'm gonna be sounding amazing, and we'll be able to play together and produce some father-son content as well for everybody. But if you did watch, if you stayed to the end, I appreciate you, of course. I hope everybody is having a okay day, a neutral day, a balanced day, staying balanced and centered per usual. But yeah, that's all I had. That's all I got. If anybody got any more questions, y'all could just comment. Let me know something. See ya.